Hey, what is going on, ADPI Nation? This is ya boy Kevin Brenner, and we got another podcast coming your way right now. I'll try to tone it down a bit, but today's episode we're gonna have some fun. Today's episode I'm talking to former Marine Justin Moy, former Marine turned millionaire with real estate. So I say that, and it's kind of flippant, right? But that's the power of real estate investing. That's why you're listening to this podcast. It's happened to me. It can happen to you. It's happened to a lot of the guests. It's happened to practically all the owners of active duty passive income. And it's not because of active duty passive income. It's because we discovered the power of real estate, and we use ADPI to bring that to the military community. So all the active duty, the veterans, the military spouses out there. And we have something super exciting. Let's see. This is recording. It's August 9th right now. I don't know if I could spill the beans on this yet, but let me just say we are working on a brand new, completely interactive online off Facebook community where you're not going to get stupid ads. You're not going to get notifications about your best friend's sister's birthday that you have to go comment on. You're not going to get hit up with, you're not going to make a post and ask a really important question, but then never get an answer because the algorithm hides it from the masses. You're not going to, we built a completely off Facebook community. And we're so excited to bring people to that. It's for the true action takers out there, and it's just incredible. It has all of our educational courses on it. It has all of our networking. It has the first ever ADPI deal room, guys. This is the place. If you have a deal and you don't want to work through an agent, you don't feel like going that way, you want to sell it to another military real estate investor. Boom, we got you. Just a couple create your listing live on there, put it on there, and get it up there. And it's just really powerful. But I talked to Europe about that. Today, we're talking about multifamily. We're talking with Justin. Justin, welcome to the show, brother.
Kevin, man, thank you so much. You guys are fighting back against Facebook.
Yeah, suck at Facebook. Own. Yeah. What's that? There's that movie, Funny People with Adam Sandler and Seth Rogen or whatever, and he's like it's going through, Adam Sandler plays himself, but there's a bit in there, and this is back in the MySpace days, and they were doing I think they were at a MySpace event, and MySpace had hired Adam Sandler's character to do comedy or whatever, and he just he just goes and it's like screw Facebook at the end, and that was his final joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it though.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, Facebook's great. I'm sure you use it on the capital raising side and stuff. It's great to connect people, but for us, we've grown to such a level that Facebook is now stopping us from creating the impact. We sat down and said, okay, our 10-year target is to impact 3 million military families. Facebook is not going to they physically won't let us grow that large in 10 years because they hide us from places. They control everything. So we're fighting the man.
Yeah. Love it.
But let's jump into this, man. You were a Marine. Let's bring it back to the beginning, and how did you go from Marine to just real estate investor, and then we'll talk about how you made the jump.
Yeah, so I went to the Marines. I was 19, maybe I was 20 years old at the time. But before I went into the Marines, I was actually in real estate. So I kind of did real estate, went military, and then went back into real estate afterwards. And really, I got lucky. I got really lucky that my very first office job, I was 17 years old. I got an internship at a commercial real estate office. And I thought this was just so cool. I was looking at the brokers. They were closing big deals. I would kind of do some admin stuff. So I'd sort of process their checks. I could do the math, see how much they were making, what they were doing. And I just thought that environment was so exciting. It was so awesome. And so I learned that I loved two things. I loved sales and I loved real estate. So of course, there's a natural merger there. I got my real estate license for my 18th birthday. I took the test the day after, 2 days after, something like that. I think my birthday was on a weekend. So I took it that Monday. And you take your test. And for anybody who's taken it, at least in California, you get your results right there. So you take the test, you walk out, the lady or the man hands you your paper. And then I was so nervous. I went into the elevator and I just folded it over and I passed. So I'm like, awesome. This is so cool. I'm going to hit the ground running on this. I hit the ground running on it. I failed miserably for like the first 6 months that I was doing it. I was just so bad. I refused to take on mentorships. I didn't really know what I was doing. But after that, things really took off. And after about a year or two of that, I don't know exactly what it was that drove me to go into the military and then pick the Marines. I think it's kind of the same stuff that a lot of people who listen feel, maybe just a higher purpose or feeling like I don't want to look back on my life. I feel like I never made a big difference in some aspect. And so for me, the military was just that outlet. So did that, joined the Marines because again, I was just kind of a hard ass. I thought that like the most pride and the toughest one I wanted to do. And so, that's something that I want to just cross off my bucket list, something I thought very few people have ever done. And I thought it'd be cool to have that experience. So did that, didn't really care for it too much. I kind of got in, got out, and kept pursuing real estate, in sales, sold real estate for a very, very long time, sold to a lot of very, very wealthy investors, and realized that if I wanted to build something long term, if I wanted to stop chasing transactional wealth, commission by commission by commission check, I needed to own. And at least in the Bay Area of California, owning for cash flow is not really a thing. It wasn't back then. This is about 13, 14 years ago. And it's not that way now. So I looked at how to scale that bigger and faster, and multifamily and other commercial real estate assets at this point really check those boxes. And so now, man, I spend a lot of my time helping other people invest passively in commercial real estate because it's just a field that I truly love. I think if everybody really understood passive investing in real estate, specifically commercial real estate, there's not a single person in this world who would not participate in that activity. So that's what I do all day now, and I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I love that story. And you're asking yourself like, man, I wonder why I joined the Marines. And in my experience, it's usually it's an affinity for Crayola, for crayons.
Yeah,
Just got that. They got that
it
hunger
is.
burning deep inside them for that brick red. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. Uh,
It is, man. It's a special beast. And it's like I wanted to do what only the 1% have done, join the military. And then my hook was just, yeah, well, only like 1% of 1% does this. I'm like, really? And it hooks people for different reasons, but the simplicity of the lifestyle is one of them for sure.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, but I think you mentioned earlier you got lucky, in that you worked for you interned at a commercial real estate brokerage and a commercial real estate house. I think I would like to challenge that statement and say you didn't get lucky. You took a chance, man. Like you took action.
Mhm.
Because when I was 17 years old, I was working at like a restaurant. I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't think to even like, I didn't figure out real estate till I was like 27.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like for you to go out there and take care of that, man, that's really impressive.
Yeah. And that's why I think I got lucky because, at the restaurant, I guarantee you made more than me. I was making whatever minimum wage was.
I
They
don't know
maybe even
about
paid me
that.
under the table. I don't know what it was. I made very little money. I was an intern, right?
Yeah.
And it just so happened, I could have gotten an internship at, wasn't looking for real estate specifically. I just like, man, I'm sick of working. I worked at a grocery store. I'm sick of working weekends and evenings. I want to work in an office. I could have worked at any office, and it just so
Sure.
happened that I worked in one. I could have worked at one that I hated and determined, man, I want to be a blue collar guy. I hate stuffy officeness. And so it was just cool that it kind of merged because I don't come from a real estate family. My family is actually the opposite on real estate. They see it as extremely risky. They think it's reserved for only the ultra wealthy. They think that being a landlord, they'll read a horror story that's a 1 in a million horror story and say, oh my God, look what happens when you own real
The
estate. And
clickbaity things and all that
right,
silly stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And so, it's the total opposite of what I was growing up and taught. So that's why I say, a little bit of luck plays in there, but, just putting yourself out there and eventually you're going to find something that you just like, wow, I'm just so drawn to this naturally. I can't explain why. I don't know why, but I'm just drawn to this topic. And for me and for a lot of your listeners, likely real estate really had that draw for me.
Yeah, yeah, and you talk about multifamily, and I'm going to jump into that. I mean, we, for a long time listening to this podcast, I hope they understand kind of the one main thing that delineates residential from commercial real estate, and that's really economies of scale, right?
Yeah.
There's other things, but the main driver is that, and multifamily is just one realm, like one asset class within commercial real estate. There's office, there's a hospital, there's
Yeah.
medical, there's office, there's the I don't even know, like
Yeah,
self
you
storage.
self
There's
storage. Yeah, strip malls. I mean,
strip
retail
malls, like
centers, real malls, like enormous ones. Like
yeah,
you could get all sorts of things in there.
yeah. There's tons and tons of different things that fall under this real estate umbrella, right?
Mhm.
But in commercial real estate and honing in on multifamily, why do you, Justin, love multifamily so much versus these other real estate assets?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have a pretty similar path in the commercial space. I think most people in commercial have is a lot of people start at multifamily. And I think they do that because it's inherent to understand it. Almost everybody's lived in an apartment at some point or drives past them and knows or has a friends that live there or they've rented a house or, it's very easy to understand if I own an apartment building, what do I do? What do I own? Why is it valuable? As opposed to saying, hey, yeah, I own a warehouse. Unless you're in the
Right.
warehousing space or worked in a warehouse, you may not get it. Okay, like who has warehouses? Well, a lot of people, but it's just different. A lot of people also something you'll hear a lot with multifamily investors, and it's sort of a pet peeve of mine just because it's said so many times, like, well, somebody always needs a place to live. And, yes, that's true, but all different sectors of commercial real estate serve a very, very specific purpose. So for me, I was drawn in by, hey, I sold single family homes.
Hmm.
I've invested in single family homes. Why can't I do the same thing and instead have 50 units under one roof and have one roof to fix up when I need to fix it up? So the scale was attractive to me. And then as you go down this rabbit hole of multifamily, you meet the guy or girl that does industrial and you're like, that sounds kind of interesting. And then you meet the guy or girl who owns medical offices. And then your taste kind of goes all these different directions. So now we're doing stuff in short-term rentals and in self-storage and in low-income housing. And so it kind of branches off from there. But multifamily is a pretty natural progression because almost everybody gets it. They
Hmm.
get the concept of it.
Yeah. No, yeah, and that's really important, especially, if you're raising capital from people who may not have invested in it, you can easily explain it to them because yeah,
Yeah.
to your point, like most everyone has rented at some point in their life. They might be doing it right now. They might be, who knows? They've done it in the past. But I think the big thing that's attractive and the light bulb moment for me personally was like you said, you invest in single family and small multifamily, and just for math's sake, say you're getting a duplex for $100,000 a door or something like that, or
Yeah.
$150,000 a door in today's market. It's a $300,000 duplex, which is pretty common, right? Okay, cool. Getting for $150,000 a door. I needed to rent for $1,500 a month. You might get that, to meet the
Mhm.
1% rule. You might get that, but then you go and start looking at these bigger deals, and you're like, wow, I'm getting this 50 units for like $70,000 a door, $80,000 a door, something like that. And you're
Yeah.
like, yes, the numbers are bigger, and there's more zeros on the total price point. But when you break it down on a per door basis, the cash flow is just becomes significantly more. Plus,
Mhm.
because the numbers are bigger on the front end, you can force way more value into it. And
Yeah.
instead of flipping that $300,000 duplex in 5 to 7 years, and maybe not doing, you might make $200,000, $150,000, whatever, which is nothing to like, that's great.
Yeah.
But imagine making 1.5 million by literally implementing the same strategy, just more so.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same thing and more.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One big wealth builder, if that's what you're looking for, is there's a difference between adding and multiplying.
Mm,
In the commercial space, your options for multiplying are so much greater.
true.
Anybody who prices commercial understands cap rates and how they evaluate multifamily. So if you're able to save even a couple of $1,000s of expenses, you're multiplying that by a cap rate. A couple $1,000s saved every month can multiply into six figures or seven figures of wealth creation on the back end.
Mhm.
So all of these things, if you want to keep adding to your wealth, yes, you keep buying single family homes, you're going to add to your wealth. If you want to multiply, where your effort can get multiplied into these enormous gains, you go commercial.
Yeah.
And I have this saying, and maybe I'm a little bit biased and maybe my crowd's a little bit biased, but I haven't met a person that goes from commercial to residential. A lot of people go from
Good point.
residential to commercial. So you find that there's different ways to scale and that your efforts and your cash are multiplied when you're in the commercial space versus when you're single family, you're somewhat limited. You can add as much as you want. Very hard to multiply.
Wow. Yeah. That I love that saying. I love the adding versus multiplying metaphor there, but also the you don't see anyone go from commercial to residential real estate unless they're buying a house for themselves. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
on the investing side. But
Very, very rare, of course.
man, that is so interesting. And there's a lot of ways that folks can get in, and you kind of talked about this valuation method briefly with capitalization rates and everything like that. We don't necessarily have to go down the weeds on that, but to your point, something I wanted to talk about is there's I like to say, you say you're adding versus multiplying. I like to say there's more levers to pull in commercial real estate
Yeah.
on what you can do. So picture this, like you have a single family home or a duplex or whatever. What can you do? Like the name of the game in any investing, Justin, and you know this, is how can I decrease expenses and
Hmm.
increase my bottom line, increase my net operating income, thereby adding value to the property.
Yeah.
On like a duplex, triplex, quadplex, or even a single family home, there's some things you can do. You can raise the rent. Maybe you could charge for parking. You got storage. There's some levers
Hmm.
to pull. But on a commercial property, there's so many more levers to pull.
Yeah.
Whether it's whether it's renegotiating the garbage contract
Hmm.
with the city and saving thousands of dollars per month, whether it's contacting communications companies and having them physically put like cell phone stuff on your
Yeah. On the
property,
roof and
on
yep.
the roof, it
Uh-huh.
could be solar powered stuff where and you're contributing back to the grid and you're getting money that way. It could be a multitude of things. It could be water meters. It could be like all of these
Hmm.
things, implementing a RUBS, ratio utility billing system across your property, saving thousands of dollars a month. Coin laundry, like so many different levers to
Yeah.
pool in commercial and in multifamily. It's just easier. It's
Yeah.
just it's the same amount of work. It's just easier and it pays off more. So I think
Mhm.
that contributes to that sentiment of that you mentioned earlier. You don't see people going from commercial to residential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it to me that dilutes risk
Yeah.
because if you get into a property and you say, "Hey, my plan is to raise rents, charge for parking, and then I'm going to get this valuation," and you go there and you find, "Oh my God, I couldn't raise rent as much as I thought." Okay, well, you could probably still charge for parking. What about your lawn contracts, the lawn care people? Can you get different vendors for that? Like you said, the garbage. Can I get a company to come in here and replace all my toilets? That'll save me a couple $1,000 per month on my water bill. So when we bought our second acquisition, it was a 144 unit property. That was the first thing we did. Their water bill was extremely high. We knew there was a leak somewhere, and we knew that they had inefficient faucets and toilets. The first month, we inspected the entire property, fixed a few key leaks, and replaced all the toilets and the faucets. And it was actually didn't cost us anything. They took a percentage of the savings for a year. So it
Wow.
didn't even cost us anything out of pocket. And we ended up saving about $1,200 per month on that property. Now, $1,200 per month straight to your bottom line is a great deal. But when you consider this was bought in a six and a half cap property, you're now adding $12,000 a year in net income and then multiplying it by a cap rate. Again, small effort for these gigantic cash flow and valuation return. So you have so many more levers that you can pull. And to me, that not only multiplies your efforts and your wealth, but it dilutes risk because there's more things you can control, more action that you can take.
Yeah, and to your point, the amount of creativity that is available for you in these types of deals, where like again, comparing this to a single family or 1 to 4 unit property. Oh, I went in and I fixed the water leak in the main sewer line,
Mhm.
and I swapped out some two toilets and two sinks or whatever, two
Yeah.
faucets. you know, Number one, on doing that on one property, it's probably going to cost you like 40 grand if you're in
Yeah.
Northern Virginia. number two, uh, number two, you're saving like $60 a month, like
Yeah.
big deal.
Mhm.
But in the economies of scale, you're saving a lot more than you're adding to that bottom line through an advanced valuation. Plus, oh, by the way, you negotiated in the purchase and sale agreement that they would cover down the cost, not immediately, but simply by capturing those savings for the first year.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a great thing. They paid for it up front, but then they got all that money back, and it helps them. Whatever the old owners, obviously they made money on the property, hopefully,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and they're still making money down the road. So it's not
Yeah.
like carrying a seller's note or anything, but it was probably set up as some sort of like secondary promissory note or some situation that.
Well, it's interesting because it wasn't even the seller involved in that. It was the vendor. And
Oh,
that's what
perfect.
happens when you have 144 units. I mean, some of those had two baths in it. That's, we had 200 toilets for you to switch out.
Yeah.
You have so much more pull. You have more pull to get different vendors out there to give you better terms. And now if you have two or three of those properties, now the conversation becomes, hey, I have 400 units of toilets
Mm-hmm.
that need. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
And it's a much different conversation than the fourplex owner down the street who now is not going to get their job done because the vendors are busy doing my 400 toilets. Yeah, big
Exactly. That's
scale.
that's a huge point too. You get preferred vendors, preferred contracts. Economies of scale are better. I think we've
Yeah.
we've beat that horse to death. Uh, it's interesting, and you have a background in capital raising, as do I. Obviously, a lot of the folks listening to this podcast are familiar with ADPI Capital and the crowdfunding platform we've set up directly to invest in projects exactly like what Justin's talking about, maybe some of Justin's projects,
Yeah.
to go and bring our community into these deals. But from a passive investor standpoint, who they might not be multifamily real estate experts or commercial real estate experts, like what's the benefits for them? Can you recap that super quick?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to one thing that I said is if people truly understood this field, I don't think there's anybody who wouldn't participate in some capacity. So if you're listening, to me and Kevin talk and you're saying, God, man, I don't want to have to switch out 100 toilets. I don't want to have to, buy
Sure.
this huge scale property. It sounds kind of risky. I don't know how to do that. Those things are probably true. If you don't know what you're doing, it is riskier. But the reason why multifamily large commercial, in my opinion, is less risky is because you have so many different avenues to invest and to get in the game. You can be 100% passive in a syndication or some type of fund. If you don't have as much money to justify funds or syndications, most are going to want 25,000 minimum at least. Plus, there's some fixed costs and taxes that you're going to want to account for. So you probably don't want to invest less than that anyways. If you don't have that much, okay, there's REITs that will do this for a couple $100, and you could get the ball rolling on your portfolio. So these items can be riskier if you go at it alone, but in the commercial space, because these properties are so big, nobody's doing it alone. You got the guy who, like this guy, he does our toilets. He does our value add. He does our asset management. This person raises the capital. This person does acquisitions. And instead of one person doing everything, like more common in the single family space, you have these different verticals and people can really specialize. Then you have our investors. Those guys, they're in the military, they're overseas, they're doctors, engineers, they're lawyers, they work 12 hours a day. They don't have to be real estate experts. They can still participate. They can just participate with their cash instead.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a passive investor, or you're somebody who thinks, man, I don't really want to do all these things hand on, you're actually in the majority. I think very few people want to dive into commercial real estate investing on the active side.
Sure.
Because there's lots and lots of nuances and it is vastly different than residential investing. So most people do invest passively. So there's still meat on the bone to be had for you. And in the syndication space, if you look at the returns and you look at the projections, syndication is a fancy word for you as the investor bring the down payment and the working capital. Me and my team do all the work. And by the time everything is said and done, you're going to get most of the profits. So it seems like a pretty sweet deal. You don't have to do any of the work. You don't have to know these things. And a great operator will educate you along the way. So you kind of get the best of all the worlds. So everybody can participate. I just think people need to know that that's possible and know that you don't have to be this uber millionaire to do it. Like these are available now for retail investors. And you can get in the game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like I said, that's the main reason we set up ADPI
Mm-hmm.
Capital was to get the retail investor into the
Yeah.
game and get started and get educated. And then, our goal is that you invest with us and then you keep going and you become an operator. If that's what you want to do, we'll give you all the resources that we could possibly give you to go out and do it. Because it is a massive, massive, massive wealth builder.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Justin, you used it. You're around 30 years old right now. You're a millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's how it works.
And it's because, again, you can multiply.
Yeah.
And when I tell people, I've hit that what I call accredited status, which is a millionaire or a certain income threshold, but I hit it by net worth. A millionaire is really just a title for the bank. It doesn't serve me any more or less than it likely serves you. I have equity and I'm not out here Scrooge McDuck diving into a basement full of cash, but it's a line item for the bank. And if that's your goal, man, you can get there, and you can get there fast. If your goal is more passive cash flow and you just want to slowly, steadily build this big nest egg, you can do that too. If you want to go it alone, like, you can do that. It's not too popular, but you can. If you're better on team sports, which a lot of the people in the military probably are, a lot of you guys probably are, you can do that. It's much more team friendly in here. So there's so many verticals, so many avenues. If you're listening to this, you're like, man, I hate apartments, I hate commercial, but you don't have to. You can do other stuff. You can do debt. You can do equity. You can wholesale. You can invest in real estate and never own real estate ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just so many verticals, so many niches. If you dig into this industry, you will find something that you love doing and that you're good at doing, and you will find a place that you fit in. Just so cool, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so much out there. I mean, we talked about kind of the pros of becoming a passive investor, and we didn't even touch on the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Most, if not all, let me say most. I don't like to speak in absolutes, but most operators out there will pass on the tax benefits to the passive investors that invest alongside them, and through what's called a K1, which is just a tax form. But pretty much what it does is any partnership LLC that you're a part of, you're going to get a K1, and as a passive investor, you're going to be investing in a partnership LLC. Mm-hmm. That has a managing member and this, that, and all the legal stuff, but it owns the property, right? And that property is going to kick off some losses, especially early on. If they do a cost segregation, they can capture a lot of bonus depreciation and push that to investors, which is great because it lowers the amount of taxes that you end up paying, and it can be carried forward to a lot of different avenues of your personal tax return. And it can also be carried forward year over year. So it's just really, really powerful. I mean, I know guys, I'm sure you do too, Justin, where they're like, man, I have like $2 million of depreciation this year. And you're just like, I'm just like, wow, what do you do with that? And
I mean, nothing. You're maxing it out.
Have, I guess.
And this is the thing. Like, when people go and they say, oh my God, how is Donald Trump a billionaire and he hasn't paid taxes? This is why. He's not doing anything that's not available to you. He's not in a dark room somewhere back there rubbing, John McCain's shoulder saying, please lower my taxes. Like, he's doing the things that are available to you. Mm-hmm. And the big difference is, and for a lot of people who are listening, who are maybe even a little bit older or more established in their lives or careers, this used to be a very, very, very cut off good old boys network. Mm-hmm. It used to be, and you had to be the Donald Trump or his or her son, or you had to be connected to do it,
to even hear about these opportunities.
Exactly. And then, so that's why you're saying, when people hear about this now, they think, oh my God, this is a scam. It's too good to be true. It used to be, because you didn't have connections like this, but with more availability of the internet and more people able to distribute information and things like you do, like we do, where we create these big funds, you can, as a retail investor, participate. Now, what you likely cannot do is go do it on your own, because what we're doing, me and Kevin are doing, is we're essentially gathering a lot of investors, and we're saying, hey, we're going to come and we're going to invest $3, $4, $5 million. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's when you start to hit that scale. That's why before, you had to have 3, 4, 5 million on your own to do it. But now there's guys like Kevin and me who are doing this and pulling people together. And we're going to say, hey, ADPI is coming with $3, $5 million check. We want a seat at the table. So that's how the average retail investor now has a seat at the table, now has the benefits that these other people, like I said, had to be a good old boys network before. And if you weren't in it, you were just screwed. Now you've got your chance. You can sit at the table because we're putting together these big funds and you can participate in.
And that's really the power of community, right? We're democratizing access to these opportunities. And it's the power of active duty passive income. And to me, you can ask Mark Yancich, founder of Active Duty Passive Income. We have deep discussions on this all the time. But, for me, this, at least in ADPI Capital, what we're doing, and similar for your investor base, Justin, and what you do, is we're democratizing things. We're offering access to these opportunities, but more so we're really connecting the dots within the community. We're connecting the passion of people who are in the military and they want to invest, but they don't know how, with the people who have been through our educational programs and are finding deals and operating deals and closing 12, 15, $20 million deals. I mean, we just had a student close 127 doors the other day. Awesome. She's crushing it. And like it, we celebrate that, and now we have a way for the community to invest directly inside that. Similar, your investors have a way to invest with you and your partners. It's pulling
Mhm.
that seat up to the table, and it's just like the toilet example, right? Like, who are people going to want to work with? They're going to want to work with the guy who has 4 toilets to replace or 400.
Yeah.
You're pulling that seat up to the table with your $3 to $5 million check, and people are listening, right?
Yep.
And that is the real power. So
Mhm.
really, really cool stuff. And there's something that I want to delve into real quick before we go to the bonus round here, and that's some kind of we'll play a little stoplight here, red light, green light, as uh, uh, with regards to sponsors. We call them
Mhm.
sponsors, we call them operators. Like you're an operator, I'm an operator. People that we work with are operators or
Yep.
sponsoring. They're sponsoring an opportunity or a deal. What are some things that you want prospective passive investors, whether they're looking into a thing like ADPI Capital with like a low threshold kind of a crowdfunding thing, or they're
Mhm.
they're looking to put more money, they're looking 25, they're looking to invest 50,000 with you or someone like you? Like what are some red flags or red lights that you want people to keep an eye on?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll give you some of my personal ones because everybody's taste is going to be a little bit different. But what you're going to do is because you're a completely passive investor. So once you wire this money off, you are entrusting that, like you said, we call them operators or sponsors who are actually operating the deal. They're doing the data, they're executing on the business plan. So you're going to want to bet on that sponsor. You're betting on their abilities to not just have underwritten and done the financial projections correctly already, but after the property is closed, to manage the business plan and execute on it and then dispose of the property when the time comes or adjust to the market as they need to. So, experience is a big thing. Now, that person that you're talking to, Kevin, I don't need you to have 20 years of experience in real estate for me to trust you, but I want to know what your team looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Who on your team has the experience? Okay, were they construction experience? Were they operations experience? Some people, their only job is to sign on the loan because they've got certain net worth and liquidity, and that's a totally great gig too. So I want to know what that team looks like. Me personally, I don't invest in solo operators. I watch a lot of Shark Tank. One of Kevin O'Leary's favorite things with solo operators is, well, what happens if you go out here and you get hit by a bus?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against you as a person, but I just need some type of scale and systems in the business so that if something happens to you, Kevin, you're hospitalized or sick, something comes up, it's not just going to leave the investment out in nowhere, no man's land.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to see some type of team, some type of structure, some type of systems and processes in place. This is a real business. It's not like a side hustle for you. I can't invest in somebody if this is their side hustle.
Right.
So that's the big one on the operator. When it comes to the deal, a lot of people are learning this right now. The number one killer of your commercial real estate deal is your debt.
Mm-hmm.
The number one killer. So you want to look at those debt terms. The second I find an offering package or somebody sends me something to invest in, if I know the sponsor, great, I'm shooting right to the debt. There should be a page on there that outlines what the deal terms are. I'm sorry, what the debt terms are. If it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if it's fixed or floating. If it's floating, is there a rate cap? Meaning that's the most they can absolutely charge you. People are finding now if they bought no rate cap 2 years ago, okay, your interest rate just tripled and you're
Yep.
underwater and you're in real bad shape. So that's actually where it's going to cause a lot of opportunity here in the next 12 to 24 months. But you don't want to be on the giving end of that opportunity. You want to
Sure.
be on the receiving end. So what's providing that opportunity is debt. Is the debt fixed or floating? If it's floating, what's the rate cap? Can you extend this loan? A lot of times you'll see in deal packages, it'll say something like a 3+1+1 term.
Mm-hmm.
That means the initial term is 3 years. If the market's not ready or you don't want to sell, you can extend for one more year and then you can extend for one more year. So that's the +1+1. 5 years total you have on this loan. I like to see extensions and I like to see ideally a fixed rate. If the rate's not fixed, what's the rate cap? And have you underwritten the deal to the rate cap? So those things are going to be the really big. If you only look at two things, that on the sponsor, I want to see what their systems and their processes and their operations are like, and the debt of the deal. If you trust the sponsor and you think that they're good and based on your research they've done well, I'm going to shoot straight to the debt of the deal that they're in. I want
Yeah.
to see what kind of debt I'm signing on and what could possibly make us forced sellers in the future, because that's what kills your deals.
Yeah, I love that. The debt and equity structure. I mean, it's just super, super, super important.
Mhm.
And you talk about the 3+1+1. Now, typically, that's in bridge debt, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to, yeah. So for listeners out there, your bridge debt, you have typically two types of debt. You have your longer term debt, which is like, let's compare that to single family. Your 30-year
Mhm.
note on a single family residential product. That's long term debt, right? It's like
Yeah.
30 years. Your bridge debt, to run a comparison, is like getting a construction loan.
Mhm.
Um, you got to fix up something in the house, and you're going to do a construction loan or something like that. In the commercial side, obviously, hey, I'm going to get some bridge debt to help me cover. Traditionally, what you would have to do in the past was raise that money,
Mhm.
raise the money from investors or whatever, or internally from your team, to go and cover the cost of construction. But in the last couple decades here, products have come out to help you bridge that gap in your structure, and get you to the other side. So ideally, what would happen is you would go and if you had this 3+1+1 situation, you would go and say, okay, well, it's going to take us 2 years to fix up all of these units based on our timeline of tenants going in and going out. Like, obviously, you're not going to do
Yeah.
construction while the guy's living in there. Like, you got to wait till they leave. So it's going to take 2 years to do that, and we're going to get a 3+1+1 here. And like you said, Justin, if the market's not right on year 3, and then you can extend a year, and you have those extensions in place, that's
Mhm.
fine. But the goal is to force appreciation and increase the rents, like force value by making the units nicer, increasing the rents, obviously increasing your NOI, increasing the value, and
Yep.
then refinancing out of that bridge into longer term debt, at
Mhm.
least 10 years, guys. You want to be looking for something that has 10 years on it, because that gives you some stability. And that most commercial property, trades between every 4 and 7 years. So if it
Yeah.
covers that spread, then you'll be okay.
Mhm.
So just some really, really good points. I just wanted to piggyback off you there, Justin. But
Yeah.
really, really interesting stuff when you're looking into to not only the debt structure, but also one other thing. Look into how the limited partner is going to get paid. Are there like
Mhm.
crazy hurdles going on here, and confusing waterfalls and all of that stuff? Like, if you're confused, ask questions.
Yeah.
You're allowed to ask questions. You're encouraged to ask questions. You're wiring money, right?
Yeah.
Um, don't invest in something you don't understand. I think that's a Warren Buffett like rule number one.
And you're seeing those structures be a lot different. And anybody, if you're listening to this and you're like gripping at the edge of your seat, like, yes, because I want to do this, I want to know more due diligence. My podcast is 100% about this. It's called Passive Real Estate Strategies. We cover green lights, red lights, deal structures, everything. And what you're seeing now too is a lot of changing of deal structures.
Hmm.
And it's not good, it's not bad, it's just different. If you've been investing passively, you probably noticed this, but what's happened too is rates have gone up quite a bit, not just for interest that people are paying on loans, but for things like money market accounts, for high yield savings
Sure.
accounts. Because of that, money is harder to raise right now. Because as an investor, if you can put your money into a 5% high yield savings account, that's risk free, it's guaranteed. Why would you take on a 8% preferred return, that's got some risk to it? You may not. You might bow out of that. So what a lot of operators have done is they'll say, hey, we're going to pay an 8 or a 9 or a 10 pref, but we're going to add this waterfall in it, because essentially they can't pay you out all the return of the property. So they might have another hurdle in there. They'll say, hey, once we get you to a 15% return, the equity structure switches to this, and we're going to get a lot more equity as the property does well. Whether you like that structure or not, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's just how different teams are adopting to different trends in the market that we're seeing. So yeah, a lot of things you want to stay on top of. You keep looking at deals, you'll keep noticing certain things. You'll notice different operators putting out different waterfalls, and you'll start to learn these things. But yeah, you want to keep track of what's the market paying for this type of deal. You don't want to invest in a deal that does a 4 or 5% preferred return right now when the market's at 7 or 8, which
Sure.
really the market is at. So you just want to know these things ahead of time, and really ask those questions before you're investing.
Yeah, that's some great, great advice, man. I love that. All right. Well, my friend, it is time to take you to the bonus round. That is the
Let's
same
do it.
4 questions we ask each and every ADPI guest. So, question number one for you: what is your favorite? Well, no, hold on. Not what is your favorite. What book or software has really been crushing it for you lately?
Yeah, for me, I'm a big believer in a software. It's called Asana. I love it. It's free. They have a free version. It manages my entire life. It's a task management system. You can create teams in there. You can have projects. I have a project for my podcast where I keep track of guests and episodes and topic ideas. My life would crumble and die without it. I mean, I have my girlfriend's birthdays in there. Like it just everything is there. Free version of it. That it's what I use. It's good enough for me. So I love that thing. I use it personally, professionally. It helps me really keep my life together. So Asana, some people, it's Monday.com is a pretty comparable product. But get something to manage your task, especially if you're doing something primarily like being in the military and doing something on the side, like building a portfolio. It's easy to keep those things separate and keep them really organized.
Yeah, so I'm on Team ClickUp.
Okay.
Have been
Yeah.
for some time now,
Yeah.
but it's very much anyone who knows me or has listened to my podcast. I've mentioned it before, but I've run my entire short-term rental business on there. I run my portfolios on there. I run this podcast through ClickUp.
Mhm.
We run all of ADPI through ClickUp. And on the ADPI team, I'm kind of like the ClickUp czar, for good or for worse. But I just freaking love it. But regardless, whatever you use, it's there are incredible softwares out there that
Mhm.
greatly improve your life. It's so crazy to me, Justin. Like I didn't even use a calendar when I was in the military. Like my Outlook calendar, I use, but like a personal like calendar to organize my life, I didn't use that
Yeah.
until I got out of the military, or like, well, no, until I started investing.
Yeah. And it's shocking because really, and especially in the military, right? A lot of this stuff is scheduled for you.
Yeah,
Depending on your job, you may not even have the Outlook calendar. You may not even see one. So
yeah.
you may or may not need it. But once you start juggling multiple things, yeah, you've got to stay organized. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Question number 2 for you. Who is your biggest hero and why?
Man, my biggest hero, I have a lot of heroes in my personal life. You know, those are friends and family members. I'm going to go somebody that I think everybody can relate to. So I'm going to go public figure on this one, just because if I say like my mom, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to relate to that because it's my own mother. And this is timely because he just had a documentary come out. I'm a huge fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger. A huge
Oh,
fan.
I haven't watched that documentary. It's a Netflix one, right?
It's a Netflix one.
I
It's
need to
really
watch that one.
good. And, you know, I did do bodybuilding in the past, so that's kind of part of it. But when you realize his life and his journey, and his life is a story of overcoming and accomplishing everything that he set out to do. He
Mhm.
wanted to be in bodybuilding. He did it. He wanted to come to America. He did it. He wanted to participate in movies. He did it. In a time when people were not hiring actors that could barely speak English.
Mhm.
You know, he wanted to get out of certain environment in his life and leave certain circles of friends and join new friends. And he did it. He wanted to get into politics and he did it. You know, so he's just this beacon of light for, hey, if you want something bad enough, you can make it happen regardless of the resources you have now. You just need to take different steps. So I'm a big fan of him, his work, and just his life and the lessons that you can learn from studying a guy like that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I'm a big Alex Hormuzzi kind of a guy,
Mhm.
and Hormuzzi is real tight with Arnold,
Yeah.
as they're both in bodybuilding and gyms and this, that, and the other, and just giving. And if you're a big Hormuzzi fan out there, you know that $100 Million Leads is coming out. That's his second book, the second installment. I don't get any referral fees or anything like that for this, but $100 Million Offers, that book changed my life.
Mhm.
And $100 Million Leads, I literally cannot wait to get my hands on it. I'm getting like all the emails, and he's really good at marketing, and he's
Yeah.
like just giving you like little teasers. I'm like, just give me the damn book.
Yeah.
The guy's built a Justin. The guy's built a 200,000 member wait list for his book.
Wow. That is
two hundred
incredible.
thousand member wait list for a book. I mean, he's going to list this thing, and it's going to be,
Yeah. It's
I don't even
gone.
know. It's gone. It's gone. So just really powerful stuff. Okay, so let's lighten it up a little bit. What do you like to do for fun?
And I'm a big jujitsu guy, so I compete in jujitsu. Um, I just had a competition this last weekend. I did okay in it. I've been getting more into the competition scene. You know, I really liked martial arts always. You did some of it in the military, but really when I got out is when I started really loving it. Did Muay Thai for a little bit of time, but you get tiring getting absolutely whacked in the ribs all day, every day, and those guys kick hard as hell. And so jujitsu is a lot less impact, and that's a sport that I've really fell in love with, and I've been training now consistently for about almost a year. And so that's what I do. If I'm not working, I'm doing jujitsu, man.
Man, see, that sounds like the young man sport. I have just aged myself 60 years and just gotten into pickleball like a freak.
Pickleball's
Uh,
fun too.
dude,
Pickleball's fun. That's
I'm
even
all
worse. I feel like it's harder on your knees and your body. Jiu-jitsu is just smooth. I don't have to run either, so that helps
you
me
don't have to run either. Yeah, screw running. Uh, oh man, if the Marines can hear you now,
out.
I'm sure a lot of them are listening right now.
Yeah.
They'll find you. All right, final question for you, man. You shared a lot of nuggets of wisdom already, but I'm going to ask you for three more, maybe to
Mhm.
summarize the three nuggets of wisdom
Yeah.
for folks who are like you mentioned earlier. They're on the edge of their seat listening to this podcast. So like, man, I want to be like Justin, or I want to be around people like Justin. Like, what are
Mhm.
three nuggets of wisdom that you can share for the military real estate investor listening to this podcast who wants to make that jump into the
Yeah.
commercial world?
Yeah. So, we talked about first thing is also we talked about a lot of different verticals you could have in this business, not just asset classes, but different investing strategies. You could fill different roles within different asset classes. I would spend a lot of time on that. What do you want to do? What are your personal strengths? What are the things you want to learn? What are the things that you hate doing? For me, I hate dealing with banks and contractors and sorting invoices. Like I would just not ever do those things. But I learned that pretty quickly. I learned that I love raising money. I love helping people invest in real estate. I love talking. I love doing stuff like this, hosting our podcast, doing your podcast. What are your strengths and how can those strengths fit into a real estate business? Once you find out what that is, go very, very deep into that vertical.
Mm,
Become the best you can be in that thing, and then give that value to somebody else who's where you want to be and kind of shimmy your way into their situation. And that'll expedite your timeline like crazy.
yeah.
Second thing is there are great deals to be had in every market. If you feel the market is, quote unquote bad, I just don't believe it. I don't think there's such thing as a bad market. I think there's just different strategies. For the
Mm,
past few years, this year is bad relative to the past few years if your strategy was to flip properties.
mm-hmm.
Interest rates shot up on you, short-term debt is non-existent right now, and it's very hard to raise money relative than it was a couple years ago. Is it a bad market? No. Is it a bad time to buy real estate? No, it's not. It's a bad time relative to the past few years to do the strategies that were more prevalent the past few years. But now there's different strategies. There's always going to be a reason not to buy real estate. To give you some examples, when I was in real estate sales, you always caution people that, hey, during an election year, the market tends to dip a little bit because there's uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
That's every 4 years. That's 25% of the time. Like you just can't write things off like that. There's no such thing as a bad market. The market just changes and you have to adapt with it. So there's
Yeah.
always good deals to be had there. Just change your approach if you're hitting struggles. And my last thing I would say, this is good for real estate investing. This is good for building personal growth or personal strengths or anything else you want to do. Find out what the process is to get where you want to go and work the process. Don't worry about the outcome. If you worry about the outcome, you're going to set yourself up to fail, in my opinion, because you can't always control what the outcome is, but you can always control your output. If your goal is you want to be like Kevin and you want to raise money, you want to have these big funds, you want to have the big podcast, okay, find out what it takes to do that and do it every day. And don't
It's a
worry.
camera and a microphone, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. And you start publishing, right? And so, and if hey, Kevin gets, 1 million downloads an episode, I'm getting 5 or 6. Don't worry. The outcome, don't worry about the outcome. Worry about the process. Hey, Kevin publishes he records every day. He publishes these episodes. He uses these hooks. Work the process. Don't worry about the outcome. The outcome is going to come naturally when you've worked the process for long enough. When you've earned it. When the universe will make you earn these things. When you've earned it, the outcome will happen. But chase the process. Don't chase the outcome.
Yeah, I love that, man. It reminds me of this quote I just heard. I think it's a Buddha kind of proverb,
Yeah.
but I'm sure I'm gonna butcher it. But it's essentially take the leap and the net will appear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So take that leap of faith, jump off the ledge, and you'll figure it out. It's gonna be okay. The net will appear. You won't hit the ground going splat.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long way down and you'll figure it out along the way, but so many people are scared to take that leap and they talk themselves out of it, whether we're talking about getting into real estate, whether we're talking about chasing a dream, starting a podcast, whatever. Like there's so many people that hit me up all the time
Mm-hmm.
about starting a podcast, and I'll spend so much time with them walking them through exactly how to do it and how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I check in on them and they haven't started yet. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, Okay. I mean, I was like, that's cool. Like, I respect that, but next time you ask for help, I'm going to be like, yo, Google it.
Yeah.
Like, my time is valuable. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this has been really really enlightening stuff, and it's awesome to talk to another professional podcaster, and we're gonna have to do some podcast swap action, and
Yeah.
get out there, and get the message out there, because it's just so important. We're
Mhm.
both in the same kind of industry and same vein, but there's this just goes to show you that there's so much real estate to be had. There's so many deals constantly happening all the time.
Mhm.
I'm not worried about Justin stealing a deal from me. Similarly, he's not worried about me
Yeah.
taking a deal from him. There's just too many deals to be had.
Yeah.
So that's why you're listening to this podcast. There's just so many opportunities, and there's so many strategies out there to take advantage of, to grow your net worth, to become financially free, and to ultimately do what you want to do, and make the life that
Mhm.
you've dreamed of. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about.
Yep.
Justin, thank you so much for coming on the show. For folks who want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing in the Bay Area and everywhere,
Yeah.
how can they reach out?
Yeah, best thing is head to our website. We went through a bit of a rebrand, and so I'm really proud of what we put together. So it's presidentsclubinvestors.com. If you go there on the very first page, very first thing you'll see, you're going to see a special bonus that we're giving away. It's going to be a retire within 10 bundle. That's really my big goal, is to help people create a path to actually replacing their active income with passive income, and how fast you can get there. You're going to get a few other goodies too, especially if you're a real estate investor. And if you joined $20,000 to $30,000 mastermind, these are going to be some of the very first things that you'd get in that mastermind if it's about investing. Giving them away for free, because like I said, I don't plan on starting one of those groups, but head to our website. It's called presidentsclubinvestors.com. Check us out. Download our free bundle. It's going to show you how you can retire within 10 years through that passive income, through some of the strategies that we talked about.
Yeah, and the website's really well done. Looking at it right now, I really, really like it.
I love it.
I've designed websites myself, and I can tell a good website from someone who thinks they have a good website, but this is a good website. So
Appreciate that. That's the best endorsement we've gotten yet. So yeah, love it.
there
Love
you
it.
go. Yeah, that's awesome. And then your podcast. What's your podcast called again?
Yeah, the podcast is Passive Real Estate Strategies, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all about being an LP. If you want
Perfect.
to give money to operators who know what they're doing, you want to reduce your risk in doing so, you want to have access to the best deals out there and learn different market trends. Passive Real Estate Strategies. Look that up. I'm published everywhere. You should be able to find some episodes. We publish twice a week.
Perfect. That is amazing. All right, Justin, man, this is awesome. I hope to one day share your podcast stage, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think we're there. You'll have to have you back on in the future and talk more about deals and structures and all kinds of fun things. I think our audience learned a lot, and I really appreciate your time.
love it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, see you, man.